Okay.
All right, so I want to just say again, thank you to all the relatives who are here on the meeting. And if you have any questions, to put it in chat, and we'll get to them as we can. So I just wanted to let you know that, and if you have gratitude comments as well, we'd love to hear that. And I'm sure our presenters would love to hear that as well. So this morning we are having, again, Mr. Leroy Shingoingtawa, who is a member of the Hopi tribe, and he is Bear Clan. He has a spouse and 5 children, and they make their home up in Monkopi village on the Hopi homelands. His education is from Northern Arizona University, and as well, he got his Bachelor's of Science in Sociology and Political Science. And then he's also attended Pennsylvania State University, where he received his educational leadership degree. And then he at the same place at Pennsylvania State University, he's also has doctoral studies in educational leadership. So, and then his experience in educational leadership spans 25 years in tribal and organizational management. He's also our former Hopi tribal chairman in 2009 through 2013, and also tribal councilman from 2015 to 2019. So he's a busy person. In the former years, he's also been a former principal of the Kinsey Elementary School here in Flagstaff. And he was the only Native American who served as the principal inside the city Flagstaff schools. Right now, he's also served as he's also served as a president and board of directors member on the Native American Community Action, and later was awarded also the 679 Points of Lights Award by President George Bush in 1992 for his volunteerism. So we really appreciate Mr. Shingoingtawa to being with us today. He never, as far as I know, every time I've asked him for something, he's never refused me. And I think that makes for a very good relative. And I really appreciate just his demeanor, his attitude, and just his way of being inclusive in his ways of Indigenous kinship. So I just want to say a thank you again, Leroy, for all the things that you do for our community. So you can take it away now.
Thank you very much. First of all, Lumatalangwa to our people that are out there who have joined us for Indigenous Day. For me, it's an honor to be here with you, especially on a day like this for many, many years, recognizing Native people and the things that we've contributed to this country, both through our actions and through the actions of our ancestors, has always been one that has never really been brought to light within our people, and within this country. And so today, for me, it's a special day. And when I was asked by Rose to join you, I thought, well, it's a good day to be part of a celebration that was always previously called Columbus Day. And among Native people, it was always a joke because we always talked about the fact that Columbus got lost and we found him when he came to this country to bring him and welcome him, as all Native Americans always do with any people that come to our country. We work hard at making people welcome. And so when we talked about, and I listened to Steve this morning, and then I listened to the presentation on open spaces, the perspective of the cosmos and the air, which I was asked to discuss from the Hopi perspective. It was very interesting for me to listen to how each of us within our life have been taught by our ancestors to be respectful of things around us. And from the Hopi side, from the time we're brought into this world and through the time that we live in this life, we are constantly taught and reminded of the things that are around us. Every living thing has a purpose on this earth. And so when I listen to the things that were discussed in regards to life among us, it always comes back to the fact that we have to find some kind of balance between ourselves and on the earth that we live on. A little bit about my experiences, because my background and ties to Flagstaff go a lot of years back, because my father, in his day, when he was still a young man, was fortunate to have had the opportunity to work with the Coltons when the Coltons moved to Flagstaff and began the development of the Museum of Northern Arizona. My father ended up being the a driver with another man named Saul, who would take Miss Colton onto the Hopi Reservation looking for various artifacts, mainly especially Kachina dolls, baskets. And so my ties with Flagstaff are historical for me, because not only was Flagstaff center for example for the village of Moncope, because many of our trips in the olden days by our fathers was through with wagon train or with horse to go in and bring supplies out to the villages so that our people would have material things to work with on a reservation. So it was kind of ironic that eventually, when the day came that I had the opportunity to become the principal of Laura Kinsey Elementary School, I reflected back to the day when my father was in Flagstaff and I ended up in Flagstaff to become a part of this community of Flagstaff, and also for the Hopi Reservation to have continue to have its size. Because for some of you that are on this call or on this conference, Nevatekyobe, which we call the Flagstaff area because of the mountain which is covered with snow, is a very, very sacred place to our people. Because in that community of Nevatekyobe is the home of our messengers we call the Kachina, which ties us to the one who has brought us into this world, who has placed us here, and who has been the guiding light for us and our people for survival. And today, as I give a perspective of where the Hopi people come from, much of what we live by is by values that we've been trained and taught, the philosophies and the beliefs that we have, and also the prophecies of things to come. Because as you look around you, as you look at the air and the cosmos and all the things that we're surrounded with, and this morning we talked about open spaces, much of the things that we have around us are all alive. There are ideas that on earth, everything that moves on this earth has a purpose for life. And we as humans, and we as Hopi people, our purpose is to live by those things that we've been taught and trained in dealing with those things around us. And that's why this morning I talked about the fact, and I'd like to always continue to come back to it, is the idea of respect about the things around us. And this morning, as I talked and listened to Rose about ancestors and about relationships, those are things that we gain respect through our lives. The people that we associate with, and especially are within our families, because within our families, those are the center of our identities that we have in life. Some of those that are listening in today, Native people that are listening in, one of the things that I always try to emphasize to our people is that always remember who and where you come from. Remember where you have been and what you have learned from those who have come before you. Because I think one of the things that, as I watch today's world, and this has a tendency to concern me, is that we have forgotten to teach our people about the identity that we have. Because within a Hopi world, within our Hopi life, one of the things one of the things that we have always got to remember is that we have a nuclear family, but we also have a clan family, and then we have a religious cultural family. And all these are tied together to help us bring balance within the life that we have here on earth. You know, this morning when we was talked about Mother Earth, you know, Mother Earth holds the sustenance for every human person and every human and living thing that is existence here today. And even in the past and into the future, our dependency upon the Mother Earth is always there. But you know, Mother Earth will exist only if we ourselves work to be respectful of what we have in dealing with the earth, the air, and the cosmos. And today, as I bring forth some of these ideas and the values that we live by, I need you to think about your life and where you've been and what you've done and what have you learned with what you have had an experience with. For me, I've been fortunate to live a lot of years so far, and been fortunate that I've had the health to experience not only my Hopi way of life and the culture, but also had the experience to go outside of the reservation lands, Hopi lands, to experience the cultures of other people in the world. And one of the things that the strengths of the Native people is that we know where we come from, we know where our homes are, and we know where we're going to come back to when the day comes when we have to leave this life. Because one of the things that I found out as I went through and lived in different parts of this country was that as I talked to people of, I call them the dominant society, those outside the world, and I would always ask them, well, where did you come from? The only answer I would get from them is where they were presently living at. And yet, when I go to our own people, the Native people, and to our own Hopi people, I would say, well, where are you from? And where did you come from? And the answer would always be, and if they were Hopi, and like I would say, well, I come from the village of Munkapi on the Hopi reservation. And no matter where I lived in this country, that was always my answer to the people that I came in contact with. It was never only the place I lived at, but it was the place that my ancestors came from. So when we live in this world, identity plays a big part in how we work with one another and how we live with one another. Uh, when I was at this education process of my life, even as I went and met with other people outside the reservation, I kept being reminded of who I was by my father and my mother. They always said, always remember who you are and don't forget that you can't change who you are into someone else without knowing that within you, there's a structure, a value structure of which will always be your guide. As I went through life, one of the things that always came back to me was that I had many instructors in my life. And this morning, as I listened to the presentation by Mr. Darden, I was reminded of all the things from the time that I can remember up through this time of life that I'm at. I was reminded of all the people like my parents, my grandparents, my grandmothers, my uncles, my aunts, both from the nuclear side and both from the clan side, who would always take the time to teach me something about the way of Hopi life. Because right now, today, even though I have become, quote, as some people would say, educated in the outside world, educated through education of schooling, internally, I still maintain the values and the beliefs of what I was taught as a Hopi. And with that in mind, those things are the things that guide me to this day. One of the most remindful or reminding things that I have that was always taught to me from a time I can remember was that every morning, in the morning, no matter where I was, whether I was just getting up in my own home or traveling or whatever, I should never forget to say my prayers to the morning sun. And so I would always take the time to always say a prayer that would show thankfulness for the things that we had. Because when we pray for us at the Hopi, we would pray to the sun as it rays from the east. And in that prayer, we would always be first, most, and most, the most precious part was to thank them, thank the Father, and the person who's the most powerful and who guides us, to always be thankful for the things that we have. Because no matter where we're at, prayer and faith guides those things internally within us. With a Hopi, daily lives revolve around a faith in someone that is powerful, someone that we rely on, someone that has given us the guidance of how we're supposed to live. Because without a guide or without guidance or without values or without any type of vision or a dream, our lives really would have no value to us or to anyone else around us or even to our families. So for those of us who've had that experience and those of us who are the elderly, I guess I can now say that with a smile on my face, because I thought this day was far down the road. And yet when it occurred, it was not as long as I thought it was, but it came very quickly. Because as a Hopi, we do not only practice our faith just on a Sunday, but every day of the week, we rely on faith to guide us. And I want to give you an example. You know, if you look at our Hopi country, those of you who that have come out here to the Hopi lands, you can look around and all you see is dirt, sagebrush, weeds, as some people call it, rabbits, coyotes, animals, and in some ways to other people who live around, water, grass, trees. It is very desolate to a lot of people. And a lot of people look at us and say, well, why the Hopi people have live in a very poor land. They don't have very many things out there. But the Hopis don't look at it that way. We look around us and we say, we live in a very rich land because the land provides for us and our families every year, all year long. And within that year-long cycle, there are practices that we do to sustain us. An example is that every year come springtime, and every year from centuries past, we have been taught how to plant in this, as some people would say, desolate desert land. And people of our Hopi people that go out and farm, we never fail to farm every year. And people say, but you haven't had rain. But that may be an obstacle, but internally we say, yes, but we have faith that no matter what happens, we are still going to plant. We're going to still put in our corn. We'll put in our beans. We'll put in our squash. And what will happen is something will grow. And I always remember that when my father and my grandfather, we would go out, and as a family and as some men would go out, before we even had a chance to put a seed in the ground, my grandfather and my father would stop for a while and say a prayer. Once he said the prayer, and that was a signal for us to put the plants and the seeds into the ground. And then once the seeds were in the ground, our job was to tend those seeds, because even the seeds to our people are like children. When we would watch them grow and go out on a daily basis, go among the field, and as the first showing of the plant begin to appear, our role was to sit there and to sing to them, to talk to them, to be happy among them. And as each day passed and as the plant grew, we knew eventually through the faith that we had, there would something be brought forth to sustain our people. This is what we call respect for every living thing around us. And those of you that are fortunate to live in Flagstaff, you have an atmosphere and a land that is full of variety of plants, of special places on that mountain. And so when I come through Flagstaff and I get a chance to stay there with my sons, I look around and feel that special spiritual feeling of being in that part of the country. Why? Because I know as Hopis, we look at that mountain as a very sacred place for not only for Hopi, but for quite a few tribes that look up on that mountain to go to and to say their prayers for a better life for our people. You know, one of the things that I learned as I was at the Laura Kinsey Elementary School was that many of the families and the children that were associated with the school were also looking for a way of identifying themselves of who they were. And one of the goals that we had as for myself as a principal and the staff there at Kinsey was to say, how can we help our children? And when I say our children, that's all the children that were going to school there and all the people and the parents that were associated with those students. How can we help them to find a balance so that when we serve the children in educating them, we would help them to know who they are and how they were looking at their lives and how they could be successful in what they were trying to accomplish. That for me was a dream and a goal that I had for the 6 years that I served as a principal. And I enjoyed every bit of it, because what occurred was that some of the parents who were not Native people, but who would come to the school and say, you know, my son and daughter came home and we're going to have a cultural day. And that's what we called it, cultural day. And they want to know what clan they belong to. And I had to smile and I explained to him what we mean by clan is who are the people that you came from? Were you a German? Were you an Englishman? Were you an Irishman? And for the native people, were you from the Sun Clan, the Bear Clan, and from the Hispanic families? I said that's basically with Hispanic people. What you, what are the people that you identify with within your cultural group? And it was so much fun because then people began to feel, I do belong to somebody. And eventually, what came out of being at Kinsey School was we became part of a Kinsey family. And I tell you this up to today, I still run into our young people who went to Kinsey, and they still talk about the fact that they are part of Kinsey and that they know who they are. This is what the relationship we have with the world around us. So when we talk about the Hopi perspective and Hopi understanding of the world around us, I personally feel that I have learned throughout my existence that every day I find something out new about my responsibility of the person that I am. Earlier, as introductions were made, you heard that my clan is the Bear Clan. And one of the responsibilities that I have been given because of clanship is that within the Hopi life, a person that is a Bear Clan is known as the father of all the children and of all the people within our Hopi people. But also, if you ask an Hopi, how about the other people in the world? Within our prayers, we not only pray for our people, but we pray for all the people of the world. So when we talk about responsibility for my clanship, I am the father of everyone that is on this earth today. That's what I believe. That's what I was taught. And therefore, that responsibility falls on me to set the example for those that uh, that I become associated with or that I come in contact with, or eventually, if I have the opportunity, my role is to teach them about life and about how to get along with every living thing that is here on earth. So with that in mind, we should also remember that we really, as a Native people, the understanding is we don't own anything on this earth. We are given the privilege of being able to use earth to live and to survive. If you come to Hopi, you will find that when you ask a Hopi person, well, what do you own? Do you own the land? And our answer is no. Do you own the house that you live in? Then the answer will be yes. Do you own the car that you drive? The answer is yes. But when it comes to the land itself, that still belongs to the person who brought us here. The history of the Hopi people is that we were brought here by our maker. And we were brought to this Hopi country and said, this is where you will be. This is your role. You are to hold it. You are to keep it safe. You are to make sure it's taken care of. And with that, that is the responsibility you have as a Hopi people. And while you are here, your role and your responsibility is to practice those values and those religious beliefs and those livelihoods that we are to live by through your life. And in that time, your role is to train your children and your people throughout the years and throughout the centuries that they must continue to believe in this way. Why? Because again, I come back to the word of balance. if you live by what you believe in, you will always have balance in your life. This morning, as I was listening to the news and I was listening to all the things going on in the world today, and the concept of climate change and the concept of how uh, we're trying to survive. The world has changed tremendously weather-wise. Uh, Storms are occurring which never occurred before. Hurricanes, flooding, winds, all these disasters, these natural occurrences that are happening throughout the world. This is a sign that's being given to people that we have forgotten how to take care of where we live at and how we live and what we're trying to do to maintain balance. So when we look at our daily lives, you know, each of us has that role that we have to play, that we have that in our lives. And I will always tell our people and those of you that are Native people listening, your role as Native people is to teach people about our way of life so that they will know that we are the people that have been given that assignment and that responsibility to take care of this earth so it can maintain some balance. Does that mean that everyone has to go out and practice the Native American way? And the answer is no. But we as natives should be doing that. Why? Because we're doing it for all the people of the world. So when I look at my life as a Hopi, I'm proud that I still can say I know who I am. I know where I came from. I know where I'm going. Because one of these days, after my life here on this earth, I will be judged by how I have taken care of the people that have been associated, my family, the life I've had here living on this earth. And right now in my mind, I feel that I have accomplished many of the things that I've been taught by the elders of this of our tribe, my grandparents, my father, and my mother. Because in reality, I was born in 1942 in Kings County, Arizona, on the eastern side of our reservation. And at the time, my mother was from the village of Masangnavi, which is Second Mesa. And my dad was from Mooncuppy here in the eastern side. But he actually was born in the village in Oraivi and lived there in his younger days. So with me, fortunately, I had the experience of living somewhat in two different cultures within the Hopi Reservation because I grew up with the knowledge of the Second Mesa area and also of the Mooncup area, which is the Third Mesa language groups. And it became apparent that I had to learn the two worlds. But in so doing, I became well-rounded in how I approach life. So my life today is really based on what I've learned through my world of being a Hopi, and to this day, I can tell you right now, when people talk and say, "Well, are you rich?" and my answer is yes, because I have a culture and I have a belief system and I have a life that surrounds me continually with how I was taught. Do I know what will be coming in the future years? And my answer is yes, because again, I was taught that the prophecies that were given to us by our people and the maker that brought us here was we were warned that if we are not careful, we are going to eventually destroy the world that we now know. And so my message to each of you today is that look back into your life and think about what you have done and what you want to do. And what is it that you really want to help with making sure that this life we have and this earth that we have is sustained? Because I am very proud that I've been able to do my part, hopefully, to protect this area of our world. For those of you that don't know it, but I worked very hard in trying to prevent the expansion of snowball as a chairman of the Hopi tribe. And I filed a suit because I wanted to make sure that the ski area didn't go higher than what it was, because I wanted to make sure the cultural belief areas of the mountain was protected. Why? Because that's the future of our people. And the only way we can protect it is we have to sometimes take a stance that may be contrary to the rules of the dominant society. But in reality, for those that are natives, we need to always remember who we are, where we came from, and what we want to do for the future of our children. So hopefully a little bit of the general knowledge I've given you today might help you understand what we are looking for in maintaining our cultural perspective of our lives. So I want you to know that I appreciate every one of you. As an elder of our people, I send blessings to each of you. And those of you that are working on our behalf of not only the Native people, but for the people of Flagstaff and also for the Native people throughout the northern region of Arizona, I want to say, Kwakwai, thank you. You are people that I feel that are willing to sacrifice. And again, I thank you. Rose, thank you very much for allowing me to be part of this day today. Kwakwai, thank you.
Thank you from all our hearts, Leroy. I really appreciate your time. And I know that we're going to be talking next from our city staff about climate change and carbon neutrality. But when you talk about what that means, the prophecies you talked about and how that affects, the things that we use for ceremony, like the birds that fly, that are also our relatives, and that, we use the things that they provide for us in our ceremonies, and how a lot of that is being affected because of these changes. And not just that, but, just using our cosmos to keep us centered and to keep us in that way of knowing who we are and not getting lost. Those kinds of things, those teachings are there as well. There's so much to learn and so much to teach. And but I thank you for this really small time that you gave to all of us. Those are some precious moments that we'll carry forward within us. Yeah. So from here we go and bridge to Nicole Anatopoulos and Tanopoulos. Yay! She's got a long name. It reminds me of those movies that are, with like those, like Metropolis, those cities like that within where all the Superman and Batman and Spider-Man, they all reside there, right? That's what I think about when I see your name. Not all the time, but sometimes. So she must be one of those superheroes. Thank you for your time again here with us on Indigenous Peoples Day. I want to have the pleasure of introducing our next speaker, and just taking a little bit of time to honor who she is and where she comes from. And as I had explained this morning, that, you know, we put the people that are speaking for us from our city staff, we have put down where they originate from. And for Nicole, her mom's side, so who she is British, and her dad's side is Greek, who she's born for. So that's who she is as our beloved city staff person, and just giving her this honor to share with us, and bridging to climate change and carbon neutrality. I know those are very important things, and it affects every one of us, you know, whether or not there's a belief for it or not. It's a real thing that's occurring. And, you know, our earth is telling us that, our animals are telling us that, our sky people, the birds and all their relatives are telling us that, you know, so it's apparent. And I wanted to just include our audience, our Indigenous audience who are here also, that it's important to hear about these topics, and that we want participation as well as just input, knowledge to be there for our Indigenous people who live here. So back to Nicole. So Nicole currently serves as the Sustainability Director for the City of Flagstaff. Nicole identifies strategic ways to advance climate change and develop effective programs and policies that catalyze long-term sustainability. She's responsible for growing the city's sustainability section from the ground up. Wow, Nicole. The section now focuses on 5 program areas, which is energy efficiency, the renewable energy, climate action, waste minimization, food systems, and community empowerment. Currently, she is leading the charge to fulfill Flagstaff's commitment to carbon neutrality by 2030. Thank you. Thank you, Nicole, for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I am honored to be here this morning. As Rose mentioned, my name is Nicole Antonopoulos, and I am actually a first-generation American. As Rose mentioned, my mother was born in London, England, and my father was born in Vula, Greece. I was raised outside of Chicago, Illinois, in a suburb called Northbrook. All of my relatives live thousands of miles away, and I believe that's what's rooted me in working towards community initiatives for my entire life. And just a little bit about my background. I did study at the University of Kansas, where I received a degree in anthropology. And my first job out of college was running a recycling center. I made my way west to attend Northern Arizona University for further education, and I have stayed in Flagstaff since I arrived. I adore this community and Northern Arizona in particular, and I'm honored that my work can focus in this area. To talk a little bit just about the passion for my work and the influences, my life has been one of privileged, and I was blessed to have spent my youth traveling to all parts of the world, respectfully observing cultures and the landscape, as well as the connection between land and community. I also observed a lot of injustice, and I struggled with that even as far back as in elementary school. But I eventually found peace with that privilege through volunteering in my communities, and then through my work, through my profession, because I better understand that it is my responsibility, and that has allowed me to find a peace with that privilege. So I truly have been on this sustainability trajectory my entire life. And I honor Father Sky each time I look up, when I spend time outside enjoying the beautiful landscape, and when I sleep under the open stars. And I honor the sky and express my gratitude for the clean air that we have. And I feel sorry for those who don't know the beauty of a blue sky. That impassions me even more to work to try to protect that. Professionally, I am constantly challenged by the demise of our relationship with our land, our sky, our water, and our non-human relatives. And what keeps me up at night is how we approach climate change when most people spend a majority of their time in climate-controlled environments. And according to the Environmental Protection Agency, the average American spends 93% of their life indoors. And so 87% of their life is spent inside a building, and then another 6% is spent in their automobile. So if you think about that, that's only 1/2 of one day per week outdoors. And while this may not exactly represent Northern Arizona, it still represents a fundamental challenge because we must act together to strive to better balance our climate problems. And as one global community, each and every one of us need to take action. So the composition of the atmosphere is what makes the climate look the way it is. And our climate is changing. And we don't need to necessarily look at the data to know that our climate is changing. Precipitation patterns, drought, snowpack, storms, our growing season, wildfires, food scarcity, vectors, and our cultures are changing incrementally. And in some cases, they're changing drastically day by day. And so in an effort to take action, Flagstaff community members, technical experts, and city staff developed a carbon neutrality plan. And this is a guiding document to help us respond to the rapid changes that are underway. And I'm just going to share my screen real quickly to highlight our carbon neutrality plan that the Flagstaff City Council adopted just 4 months ago in June. And we've set 3 broad goals. The first is to strive for carbon neutrality by the year 2030. And the second is to prepare our communities, our systems, and our resources to be more resilient to all these changes that are coming as a result of the changing climate. And the third is to address climate change in a manner that prioritizes our community members that are most impacted by climate change, and to ensure that the benefits and the costs are equally distributed throughout our community. So we want to focus on strengthening our neighborhoods through developing and promoting and encouraging resilient communities to create more equitability in our work, in our policies, and in our programs. And we also want to focus on decreasing our dependence on cars. We want to focus on managing our consumption by reducing all the energy that goes into heating and cooling our buildings, as we're seeing more extreme temperatures on either end, warmer and colder. We know that we're using more energy to make our buildings comfortable and safe. We also need to focus on reducing our consumption. We are and continue to be a throwaway society. We need to focus on cleaning our energy systems, to have cleaner electricity and fuel switching. So to get away from fuels that emit a lot of greenhouse gas emissions, such as natural gas. And also focus on electric mobility. And these aren't necessarily cars. Electric mobility is also scooters and electric bikes. And then we need to focus on carbon dioxide removal, because all of this work that I'm mentioning isn't going to get us to carbon neutrality alone. I wanted to share this graphic because historically, we've used a Venn diagram to talk about sustainability being this intersection of environment, economics, and social needs. I like the 4 well-beings of community sustainability, and it makes me think of the 4 directional winds. If we look to our culture, our environment, our economic health, and our social health, we will create a balance of community well-being. So I'd like to introduce this new drawing when we talk about sustainability. So where do we go from here? When we talk about solutions, we have to think about learning from each other, learning from our past, learning from the science and the technologies that are evolving, and intersecting all that to find solutions and better address our relationships to the land. We need to focus on lower impact lifestyles and systems. But how do we do this? We have to do it collectively. We have to learn from one another, and we have to teach one another and be accepting of these changes that we're being faced with, and recognize that there is tremendous potential to move forward collectively as one larger community. So just at the City of Flagstaff, we do have resources to help educate and inspire individual action. And we also have financial resources that can help offset costs to making your home more energy efficient, for example. But we know this is only a start, and there's so much more work to done, all while healing from all of the past. So we welcome partnerships and working together. So as I mentioned, we can learn from one another to move our carbon neutrality plan forward, but more importantly, to become a more connected community so we can focus on our well-being. So thank you, Rose. I really appreciate the opportunity again to be here. I did want to leave some time to address any of the information or questions that have been posted in the chat.
Nicole, we don't have any questions right now, but you can keep going. We have the time. You have time until 11:30. So if you want to keep sharing, that would be fine.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you. Well, then let me take a few extra minutes then to just talk about the development of the carbon neutrality plan, because I think it's important that we emphasize that this plan was brought forward by the Flagstaff community, and we worked with technical experts inside the organization, the city organization, as well as climate scientists, and took information, those data points, to create a trajectory of where we can go with a lot of those actions that I mentioned in terms of decreasing dependence on the automobile, as well as decreasing our energy consumption. And we need to balance all of those strategies with focusing on equity in our Flagstaff community. We also need to invite our neighbors in the county to walk alongside with us, and our organizational partners, school districts, large businesses in town, to walk alongside with us to ensure that we can achieve these goals, but ensure that we do it in a manner that is, again, equitable and invites people in rather than polarizing our community across northern Arizona. We have a tremendous opportunity, and I am a firm believer. I heard recently someone describe themselves as a pathological optimist, and I so appreciated that, because even with all the dire news that is coming daily, volatility is our new norm. All of that, I still believe that we have every tool that we need to achieve our goals, to bring the world and the earth into a better balance and help to prepare and manage all these climatic changes. A great example, and I want to just do a quick shout out. This coming Saturday, we are going to host Make a Difference Day here in Flagstaff with our partners at United Way and Coconino County to help out our neighbors in Flagstaff that have been severely impacted by the flooding from the post-fire flooding from the museum fire. And if you would like information about that, I'll go ahead and drop that in the chat. We are looking for volunteers to spend a few hours with us on Saturday to help build community and help respond to these catastrophic weather events that have happened and will continue to happen. And if we can keep pulling together as a community and share our resources and our appreciation for our neighbors, we will all be better off. And this will help us to create an identity around a resilient community, because we are going to need to keep leaning on one another and trusting in our abilities to tackle climatic changes. So with that, I will go ahead and drop the PDF into the chat. And if you would like to sign up, we do ask that you sign up for the event so we can better manage distribution of volunteers throughout the day. And one additional plug I would like to emphasize here is on the 15th of this month, which is Friday at 10:15, we are asking everyone to step outside for 15 minutes, no matter where you're at, be it your office, your home, place of worship, even if you're at the grocery store, to help us pick up litter in and around our community. So we call that the 15-minute makeover, and we could really use your help in protecting our community from litter. So wonderful. I think I'll leave it at that, Rose. Thank you. Yes, I see the chat. I have that open now. I'll go ahead and post that event as well.
That'll be awesome. And Carrie is a great person to run with that. Thank you, Carrie. So this concludes this part, but I also want to just say that Jenny wasn't able to be with us today, but she is another person that is just full of life, and she's just contagious in her attitude and just the things that she likes to share. So she had a family emergency, and so just send her your good thoughts today. And just she had to fly out of Flagstaff, and so wherever she is, help her to feel that from here. Wanted to say that again too. The other information that I wanted to give was the noon session where Sarah Dector is doing her presentation. That is a separate link to get into. So she was accepting registration, and so if you want to do that, that's also on the poster to register. She was having she's doing this work for the Flagstaff Regional Plan, and so she just happened to have that's her importance of culture and history set for today, and we talked about it and said, let's just include it in the lineup so that you'll be part of, people can share that opportunity to learn more about Sarah, what she's working for, and how you can have input into that. So please join her at noontime. So after that, right now from here, as far as this lineup is concerned, you'll be back in the same link space at 1:30, and then we'll have Councilwoman Toulouse with us at that time, and also Erin Young. We have a couple hands up, and also I think Nicole is that your hand up, Nicole? Okay.
Well, I'm one of them, I think. I just wanted to see, I was hoping we could have a little question and dialogue, but one of my big questions is for the participants this morning, where do you think we should all begin in working to heal this relationship with our lands and our sky?
Rose, this is Leroy. That's a good question. I think one of the things that we need to continue to do is start sharing more and more of what we are trying to accomplish for all people. Today's session really dealt with the indigenous, the world, but as I talked earlier about the fact that how we are going to heal Earth together is that we have to all work together to help one another.
Mhm.
And I know that one of the things that I learned being Flagstaff, and this was from my staff, was how to recycle, learning how to recycle materials. Because as was brought to us, we've learned to become a throwaway society. Everything we have, we just throw away, but we don't utilize that those things that we have, we can still utilize for something else. So I think educating each other and continually supporting this type of effort as a group, and maybe this is a goal that Flagstaff can not only do for just Flagstaff, but for everything, especially up the northern part of the country. I know here in Tuba City, there has been a lot of push to do recycling by the Coconino County landfill that's here in Tuba City. So that has caught on quite a bit here in the Tuba City, Moncopie area. And I know in Hopi, this was tried. And again, consistency is always a key to trying to get things happen. So just a thought from my side, but I think that helping one another to educate others, that's really a key to trying to make this effort worthwhile. Thank you.
Carrie?
I have to keep my picture on because my band isn't that good. I keep going in and out. Forgive me for that. But humbly, I would like to respond by suggesting possibly starting with prayer.
Mhm.
Starting with a prayer, unified, all nations at a really nice location that's central, up high. I love Buffalo Park. All my stuff is at Buffalo Park, but it's just starting with a prayer and then putting that energy out there. That might sound kind of philosophical and stuff, but I believe in that, and then what we've been trying to do, like with our the composting bin at Isabel Garden, is just trying to educate people. And I think, meeting the people at what do they say at the 3rd grade level, 4th grade level, giving examples, your chart that you showed a minute ago, decrease carbon dioxide. What does that mean exactly? How do people do that? How can we reduce carbon, giving ideas, with the layman's link, because we want to include everybody, right? So, those kind of papers, those kind of things that help people. And then, like the town halls, this coming together in a circle to share ideas and thoughts and encourage each other, grassroots kind of community connection and just talking. And of course, food is always good. And to be able to bring healthy food from gardens, it would be also another, or, a lot of people do food demos that are plant-based, as well as, encouraging people to bring their own dishes. Let's do away with having to buy paper plates, paper cups, and plastic forks and knives, and begin to have events where people bring their own dishes. I can't remember what that's called, but there's a name for that kind of activity. So it's just reaching out to the people and everything that we're connected to, and sharing the ideas, and hopefully, the prayers, will carry that in a good way. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. I appreciate that. That is so valid. Everything you said, I think, is very, very much needed. And I just want to also read, I don't know if people can see their chat, but what Jan said was we really need to begin is a foundational shift in education. We need to bring teaching concepts Leroy and you and others are talking about much earlier and consistently. I think that is so great, because kids, we learn from them all the time, and they're always teaching us something, and they are not shy to put us in place and say, you said we're not supposed to do this. And I think those are some things that are the concepts like that, when we get our kids to participate and really consistently encourage the adults, I think is just awesome. So I just wanted to share that. And then John says, questioning the assumption that nature is separate from human culture and developing policy with the understanding that both are interconnected. I would say that is brilliant. I think, those are things that we're really trying to convey to the general public. I think separateness is not where we need to be, because we are all interdependent, we are interconnected, and we are a family on this globe. And so we need to treat not just ourselves with that responsibility, but with the animals and the trees and the birds and those that live in the water. There's so many relatives that we have that aren't just taken into consideration. So those are some thoughts to have. I'm going to go to Carm right now before I read Robert's.
Yes, hi, good morning. So I am always of the belief that organizational or cultural changes always revolve around honest, hard dialogue a lot of the times, and keeping that consistent. So what I mean by that is definitely piggybacking off of the previous comment where it said bring people together. We need people of various generations, youth, all the way, even young children, all the way up to our elders, because we each bring different levels and different degrees and different experiential knowledges that we've accumulated based on, our everyday lives. And so those are all valid knowledge that can be brought to the table. So one thing I get a lot, and I don't really consider myself youth anymore, but I'm almost about 40. I feel like a lot of the time we always get elders or older people who don't really take the knowledge that we want to bring to the table with its full worth and its full validity. And I think that also needs to be challenged, where we do listen to each other. We don't just say, oh, they don't know any better because they haven't lived here longer. Yet we face different challenges. We confront different challenges on a daily basis that are different from those who are older than us. And so it takes those types of hard conversations that we need to have, in which we also identify, we envision what kind of future we want. What is it going to take for that future to become alive? How do we create that? And more importantly, what kind of systemic and structural factors are impeding on us getting to that future? So I just wanted to offer that. Again, hard conversations.
Thank you, Carmen. Thank you so much. All right.
And Rose, if I may jump back in, thank you, everyone. I think one of the most important things I personally have learned is that listening is where I need to start and have been starting. So everyone's input this morning is incredibly appreciated, and I hope to continue to learn more and listen more and have those opportunities for the hard conversations. You are exactly correct. We have to have those hard conversations if we're going to identify solutions and if we're going to move forward as a community in a healthy way.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you, Rose.
All right, Robert says being aware is important. He says he tries to be aware of the things he does every day and the impact they may have on the earth. Bye, Carrie. Take care of yourself. Have a great day. All right. I think if there's no other comments or questions, we have about 5 minutes for this session. And then attend Sarah's session at noontime. And then we'll be back with at 1:30 with our Councilwoman Talusi, as well as Aaron Young. Thank you again, and bring your lunch if you have to. All right.
Oh, and Rose, sorry, one more thing. Apologies. I'm unable to drop the flyers for the 2 events that I mentioned in the chat, but I will just put in the chat very quickly our city website that will have all the information and hyperlinks. I'll also include my email address, and if anyone wants me to email them the flyers, I will do so. So thank you.
All right. That concludes this session, and we'll see you back soon again. Thank you, everybody. Sarah, do you want to stop recording? Because I don't think I can do it from this side.
Thank you for the reminder, Rose. Yes, I will stop now.
All right.